This is a Film Stories original podcast.
This is Writers on Film, the only podcast dedicated to books on cinema. Hi everybody and welcome to Writers on Film. My name is John Bleasdale. I'm a writer, film critic, and I'm delighted to be joined by Christina Birro, who is a writer and broadcaster. And she's been a friend for many years now. I mean, when did we first meet, Christina?
I'm thinking like maybe 6 years already or something like that. Could it be?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
certainly sounds like it. And I think we were first sort of connected online, and then we met in a festival.
We have some connections. My husband is half Italian, and of course, you live in Italy and your connection and movies and a whole bunch of things.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. There's loads of connection, podcasting as well, because you've got
Yes,
your very own successful podcast, right?
I do. Well, successful, and for me, it is. It's been growing through the years. Pop Culture Confidential, where I interview um, actors, writers, directors, critics as yourself. We talk about movies and the media and pop culture in general.
Yeah, you've just been covering Cannes, and you've done several podcasts from there, several episodes, one of which I was delighted to guest on. Um, and also, I mean, I have to say, your guests are always excellent people. They're always really. I'm always finding myself going, God damn it, how did you get that?
Well, thank you.
So I wanted to ask you first of all, Christina, sort of your relationship with film. You know, where did it begin? What was your what? I was at a dinner for Mubi recently during the festival, and we sort of got into this conversation about what was the first film to change your brain chemistry, which I thought was a really interesting way of putting a
Good one.
question. Yeah,
Can I go way, way back?
yeah, absolutely. We all did.
Okay. Well, my connection to movies is lifelong, and analyzing it as I've grown older, I think has a lot to do with my life in many different countries and being moved around everywhere. As you may know, I was born in the States, and I have a background of all kinds of nationalities. My mother was from Spain. My father who lives in Washington, D.C., lived for a long time in Indonesia. I spent a lot of summers there. It was very disparate. And movies were kind of my home. So, I think, classic for our generation. For me, it was definitely E.T. and the whole home and leaving and what means something to you. And for me as a small kid, that was very meaningful and huge, mind-blowing experience for me. And I still cry. I've shown it to my children, and they may also feel quite rootless because we're not quite sure where we're supposed to be in life. And so movies were for me very important. When I visited my father those years he was in Indonesia, my stepmother got me she had a bunch of VHSs of old musicals, West Side Story and stuff like that. And then Spanish movies became something for me when I was there. And it was a connection for me with other people in different ways. And then in terms of journalism, I studied film in university, but I also studied journalism. And I sort of started my career actually in current affairs more than film. I worked for a big sort of Barbara Walters type journalist in Sweden, where we did portrait interviews of everyone from Hillary Clinton to Cuba documentaries to things like that. But when I started Pop Culture Confidential, I felt I was at a point in my life after being a single mom and having a new relationship. And now I'm going to go freelance again. I want to do movies. I want to interview people. And Pop Culture Confidential sort of came from there. Of course, work for several other outlets because, as you may know, as a freelance, we have to do several things at the same time to make it work. But in a nutshell, that's kind of my story.
That's amazing. And Sweden sort of pops in there as a country as well. There's Indonesia, Spain,
Oh,
America, and
yes, I
Sweden.
live in Stockholm. Well, I'm
Right,
based in Stockholm, although I spend a lot of time. My podcast is more on an American outlet and
right,
more sort of there, but at the same time, I do freelance work for Swedish national television, where I mostly cover international and American films, and Peter's half Italian and other stuff from Spain. So I don't really know what I'm supposed to say that I am, but I guess a little bit of everything. As are you, of course, as kind of an expat living in Italy, and I appreciate that knowing many people like that, and it's always an interesting experience.
yeah, I mean, I do bristle a little bit with expat. I'm more of an immigrant. I don't.
All right, okay. I
um,
don't know what I am either, so.
yeah, I mean, expat always seems to ring a bell, which says white rather than than anything else.
Yes,
You
and
know?
like someone's paid for you to be somewhere, right? Like you
Right?
get
Yeah.
everything. Here's your house, and here's your.
I
I
swan
don't have any.
around.
Yeah,
I swan around in a white suit and,
yeah.
and cravat, which I kind of do, but I just don't want
I was
anyone
gonna
to.
say you do have very nice style.
Oh, thank you. I will take the win rather than questioning it, which I could also do. But
Anyway, I think for me, movies have been a grounding sort of experience and a way for me to see life and experience different cultures in a way that was has been very meaningful. Other than the fact that I just love going to the movies, right?
yeah, I was going to ask that as well. Was your main source of movie going cinemas, or did you mentioned VHS earlier and television and everything? Because I always think I really loved going to the cinema. It was a real treat, but it wasn't a regular thing for my especially when I was a child. My parents would take me to see maybe a film a month or a film every couple of months rather than like it wasn't a weekly thing. I mean, God, I would have loved it to have been, but it wasn't. And so most of my films came from the black and white portable TV that I had propped up on my bedside table by my bed in my bedroom. You know?
Oh, the same. Complete omnivore of everything. There was the television, and I'm also very much a kid of the '80s who grew up on television, and American television. Watched, I can Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley on repeat after coming back from school. So for me it was everything. Yes, but cinema was always very. My cousin and I in Spain during the siesta, whenever we hated the siesta, it was so boring. So we would always run off to the cinema, and that's where I saw a whole bunch of movies that probably were totally age inappropriate. I remember seeing 9.5 Weeks with him when I was like 12 or 11 or something. I still have that one, but that
What are
was
they doing with all that food?
exactly what is this. um but yeah, I mean, I loved going to the movies, but in the same way that you are, I mean, of course, grew up on VHS and then DVD and then every type of multimedia experience of watching a cinema. And I know this is a terrible thing to say, but I can and watch a movie on my iPhone, and if I have to, and I get it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I had the best cinema experience of this year so far watching Barry Lyndon in Cannes on the
Oh,
biggest
well,
screen in the world. And well, no, not really, but on a huge screen with beautiful sound system, remastered, wonderful, full theater full of people who were there to watch the movie and nothing else. And it was just amazing. But that's not 99.9% of my film consumption is entirely different from that. And films tend to survive. They survive not necessarily being transmitted in pristine conditions.
I agree. Same experience for me.
Okay, let's talk about Cannes then, because we've just both come home. Cannes finished on Saturday, and we're recording this on Monday morning, so it's really fresh. In our, I mean, I'm not sure if it's fresh or because you see so many films. I think I did a rough count, and it was about 36 films I saw all told. Some of them on links as well during the festival, which is a very bizarre thing that
That's amazing.
you're
It is it is stressful. I think, you have to pace yourself, and once you get over the ticketing and the, just choosing and picking and trying to get organize all your outlets, and it is an experience.
It certainly is. And then you meet people by accident. You're just walking down the street and you bump into someone you haven't seen for 3 or 4 years, or somebody turns around and says, "Oh, wait a minute, are you so and so?" And I get that a lot with a podcast, which is amazing. It's absolutely
It's lovely.
it's a beautiful experience to sort of because when we do this, I'm sure you'll have this experience as well. You're kind of talking into your microphone and into the void. You're not entirely sure if anybody's listening.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. The little feedback you get means everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can get statistics, but then people will say, "Oh yes, but that's only people who click on it once. It might be, they might close it after 5 seconds," and so
And, and a meaningful episode, someone will say, "Oh, I remember that interview where you talked to that whatever it was." Someone was mentioning an interview I did with the sound designer for the Glazer movie, and knew specific things of the questions, and I was like, "Wow, that's you know."
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. That's so rewarding, so satisfying, and makes it all worthwhile because we're certainly not doing it for the coins, are we?
That's true.
It's not the ka-ching. It's not. So, what's your history with Cannes, and what's your history with Cannes? Have you been going there regularly?
I I've been there a few times. I go to a few different festivals. I don't think I've been as much as you have. The first time I went to Cannes was actually with Peter, who was introducing a movie there that he wrote, and then I've covered it a few times. And then I've sort of had to pick and choose. I've done Venice a few times, and now the past few years I've fallen in love with Telluride. So that's become something I want to do if I can, with family and money and everything as much as possible, because that's really an intimate festival where I've gotten the most out of.
What do you like particularly about Telluride?
That it is so small, contained, and you really, the stress, once you go, you see all the movies, you don't have that stress of ticketing, and it's the same group of people that you talk to every year. You really are up close and personal with the filmmakers who are in line with you and all over the place. It's not the sort of selfie, there's no red carpet type of things, but everyone is there. So it's much more laid back, but very, very, very intimate.
Well, that sounds great. That sounds wonderful. There are a couple
And
of
curated. I mean, if you have to sort of like how they curate, because it's very short compared to these mastodon festivals that you and I mean, Venice and the so but you have to sort of enjoy their curation because they choose it and then you see it sort of.
right. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of well, there's Bologna Cinema Ritrovato, which is the sort of restoration festival where you see films that have been restored, usually on on film. And that's an amazing festival in terms of that intimacy and that you don't have to worry about anything. It's all on your badge, for instance. All your tickets are on your badge. So
Right.
this is very inside baseball for people. I'm sure they're like, what the hell are you talking about? But it just relaxes you and means you can concentrate on the films and the conversations.
And yet,
Um,
humbly speaking, we're so privileged to be able to go to all these festivals. But answering your question, why Telluride feels, I mean, Cannes is amazing, but in a completely different way.
Oh yeah, I think people have to understand about Cannes is that it's three different festivals going on at the same time. There's sort of the Marché, which is in the basement of the Palais, kind of quite symbolically, and is huge, and is where all the wheeling and dealing is done, including in the hotels around surrounding. And then there's the screenings, which are the second festival, if you like, which are the sort of the journalists and the people like us. And then there's a third festival, which I only bounce into occasionally, which is sort of the parties, which are some people never see a film and they just go to all the parties, which are partly business as well. It's those are where the connections are made.
Yeah, the
So,
buyers and the PR people, they're there. I don't, I mean, I stepped into one gathering for the Norwegian film Sentimental Value because I was invited just to go by and say congratulations because I love that movie so much. But that was literally the only sort of here's a glass of champagne for 20 minutes that I got the whole time. Well, some people, have to and really kind of enjoy that as well and are invited to everything and are looking out for all the parties. And
I met a
that's
f-
not part of my experience.
well, I met
I
a f-
bring great clothes, and I said to Peter, and I got home and unpacked my bags. And next year, this is like the fourth year in a row at some festival. I bring these with. I have not even opened that part of the suitcase.
You have to, yeah, absolutely. You pack and unpack your the glad rags. But I mean, I do know people who they'll end up going to a gala and having to dress up just because that's the only ticket they can get. I mean, I've had several people sort of hunting for an emergency tux because the only way they can get to see a film is to go to the red carpet gala, which is so first world problems. It's
It really is.
unbelievable.
Like
Where's
I don't feel sorry for. I've never been able to click one of those tickets. I can tell you,
where's
and I have
where
a pretty good badge.
where can I rent a tux?
Yeah.
Can I? But brilliant. So what about this festival? We've already talked about it on your podcast, so I want people to go off and listen to that episode as well. I can't remember exactly what did we talk about? I think we talked about Lynn Ramsey
We talked about Lim Ramsey. We
and
talked a little bit
chronology of
about
water.
Phoenician Scheme and Chronology of Water, for
Yeah.
example. No, I thought this was a generally a very meaningful, moving festival with several moments of discovery for me. I love disagreements. You were talking about meeting people and talking about. I know, reading your stuff, there's one film that I think you liked that I thought was absolutely abysmal. So maybe we'll get into that one. But I think that's part of it. It's part of having your own experience. And I think that many people that I talked to were sort of put off by the female trauma porn, as they called it, of this several movies that had to do with female trauma. But I was actually invigorated by several of those, including Lynn Ramsey's Die My Love. There was a lot of sort of bleakness on AIDS and COVID, but at the same time, very much joy and happiness as well. And so for me, I have to say, all in all, it was one of my better whole experiences of a film screenings at film festivals in the past few years.
Yeah, I think the bench was really deep on this one. I think it wasn't just that you were sort of the cream of the crop were very good. It was also that all the way down to the middle of the table. There was still really good stuff to watch there. In fact, Damon Wise, the writer from Deadline, who's a friend of mine, he was saying in his rap piece that he felt the quality was so good that critics were kind of inventing or exaggerating how negative they felt towards certain films, because otherwise they didn't want to be taken for sort of gullible
Yeah.
fools looking like
Four
they
and a half, four
just
and a half, four
yeah,
and a
yeah,
half.
exactly, just liking everything. And I think that's funny because I think last year it was the opposite case.
I agree.
There wasn't that level of quality, so perhaps we were boosting up certain films simply because it was just like, okay, I haven't seen anything good, so this film's that's okay, I'm going to say is great, and this film that's great, I'm going to say is a masterpiece.
Yeah, and
Um,
just looking at the winners, for example, there were so many. I was so happy with the jury, including in the Uncertain Regard, because I really liked the mysterious gaze of the flamingo, which won there, Pillion and Urchin, two great movies, and as well as a cornucopia of the actual winners that the jury chose for the Palme d'Or, So Secret Agent was one of my favorite. Trier was probably my best experience, and Sound of Falling was included, which I think you and I talked a little bit about. No, we may perhaps didn't talk about it on my show, but I talked about it on another. So in all, I thought it was much so. Then there were a few that I really didn't like, but that was interesting
Right.
too.
Okay. We'll get to that in a moment. I get a feeling we're revving up. I don't want to get to that too early, and then not
No,
you
don't.
don't want to talk to me for the rest of the podcast. Um, well, let's go through some of the winners and the winners and losers. I mean, it's interesting that the films that we actually talked about on your episode, I don't think featured much in the awards. Lynn Ramsey walked away with nothing. I was hoping for maybe Jennifer Lawrence getting some
Me
sort of
too.
recognition for her performance, but I know that that film was divisive, so it wasn't a huge surprise. It didn't receive anything.
Did you see the one? Because I missed the one who actually won the best actress.
No, I didn't see.
You
What
didn't
what
see it?
was it?
No.
What film did she win it for?
Was it? No, I don't remember.
Yeah,
Daughter.
this is where our
Yeah.
preparation pays off. In other words, neither of us have done any. We're so exhausted. We're just
Exhausted.
let's see if there's a full list here. The Little Sister,
Sister, right.
Nadia Meliti won. No, I didn't see that. So there were a few films that I didn't see that won. The Secret Agent, Kleber Mendonça Filho, won Best Director, and Wagner Maura. I hope I'm pronouncing that. You can correct me as a Spanish
Yeah,
speaker.
Wagner Mara, yeah.
Yeah, The Secret Agent.
Wonderful film. I really think it's a John Bleasdale film. If it's it was the best opening of the entire festival. The first 6 or 7 minutes of that movie tell you everything about the movie, about Brazil in this era, about the, you know, the police dictatorship, what they're going through, the civilians. And from there, it just led me, it's not easy to follow because there was some things take almost an hour and before you start realizing who's who and what's kind of going on. But it has kind of what we opened this whole show talking about because he blends myth with everyone is watching Jaws in the cinema, and that
Wow.
sort of comes into the story of this sort of researcher who's, involved. I don't want to say too much. That's why I'm kind of pacing myself, but
Hmm.
he's dissident. They're living in this safe house and what's going on politically in this town. Well, at the same time as Jaws is the huge movie in the cinemas, and you kind of get that thing. Wagner Mara is amazing. And it'll be interesting to see where this film goes during this award season, if we're talking about that, since Brazil had such an epic success with I'm Still Here, and which is kind of from well, not just kind of, it is from the same era and kind of the same themes, but this is equally as good and interesting that it actually received 2 awards because they tend not to do that, these Cannes juries, but for me it was quite worth it.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised at that as well, and I was also wondering if there was a Spanish actor from the film Sirat, which I was thinking might pick up an award because he is such a
The one who plays the father, correct? Is
yes,
that, yeah, you were telling
exactly,
me.
who's a kind of a veteran Spanish actor, um, Sergi Lopez is his name, but Sirat did win a prize as well, so that's not necessarily. It didn't come away empty-handed. The one thing I will say about The Secret Agent is I did go to see it. I watched I think it starts with the credits, and I closed my eyes to just rest them, just rest them,
Do not do that at a festival.
and I opened them again, and it was literally someone was getting rid of a body, and it was 45 minutes later.
Oh,
And
okay.
and I just thought this actually feels too good for me to try to catch up on. I'd rather just watch it from the beginning and watch it properly and stay awake.
Smart.
No criticism of the film whatsoever. I think when you're watching 3 or 4 films a day and you're getting up early, getting to bed late, falling asleep is just an occupational error, an occupational hazard. So I'll hold up my hand and say I was gonna watch it on the rewatches, which play on Saturday, but I decided to come home. So that's one I've lost out on, but it's one I really look forward to seeing, and it's kind of nice because I think it will be shown at like some more European festivals before it gets a release.
Yes,
So
I think so.
I might catch it at Locarno or at Carlo Vivari before it's out. Um, Other prizes went to some films I didn't see, like The President's Cake, the Iraqi film by Hassan Hadi. Did you get an opportunity to
No,
see
I
that?
did
No.
not see that.
Okay, so moving swiftly on. Um, My Father's Shadow also got a special mention as to the Camera d'Or. It's given to a first-time filmmaker, and Akinola Davis Jr. That was the Nigerian film
First time Nigeria is in the
in
Cannes Film
in
Festival.
Cannes Film Festival. So
Mm.
that was a brilliant. It's good, great recognition. I heard that the film is very good. So again, I look forward to catching that somewhere down the road. Best Actress Nadia Maliti we've already mentioned. Best Actor Wagner Moura we've already mentioned. Who the audience will remember from probably his most famous role is in Narcos, where he plays Pablo Escobar. Best Screenplay, Jean-Pierre and Luc Dardin, the Dardin brothers, for Young Mothers. Did you see this one?
I didn't, and I'm sad I didn't. Darden Brothers have never been very huge for me, and I kind of probably put that to the side in my stressful um, trying to figure out what to see. So I didn't, but I heard a lot of really good reactions to it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit cool on the Dardans. They're not
You also?
my,
Mhm.
yeah, they're not my sort of bowl of gruel as far as I'm concerned. Because I just feel like they're the sort of bran of cinema. The sort of like you
Mhm.
have to eat it because it makes you feel good. But I've never been excited or interested in a film they've made. That sounds very, very harsh, and I think maybe I'm exaggerating for effect. But uh, it's just one of those films that they're those filmmakers that don't really do it for me. I recognize that other people. I'm slightly surprised as well that they got best screenplay because I always think their films uh, they feel like they're not particularly scripted, which might be because they're scripted amazingly,
Mhm.
but they always seem that the screenplay is not the thing that I would think of rewarding them for, put it that way. The jury prize was given to two films, which is kind of a. And some people were on social media upset by this because they say it devalues the prize. It's not the first time that it's happened. It's happened before. I think Jean-Luc Godard won a prize the same year as the Canadian filmmaker Xavier Dolan, and it was almost like a generational thing. They were giving the youngest filmmaker and the oldest filmmaker the same prize. This time the split went between Oliver Lach and Sirat, which we've already mentioned, and The Sound of Falling, which you mentioned, Masha Shalinsky's second film. What did you make of these prizes and these films?
Well, Masha Shalinsky was for me absolutely transformative. I am so um, astounded that this is just her second film. I thought it was so assured and beautiful, and there were rumblings of Bergman in her cinematography and her pacing, and I completely agree. It's a dark film about the female experience and how um, we perhaps generationally bring with us the experiences of the women before us. It's a very harsh look at death and how we bring that with us in coming generations. And it's it doesn't really have a plot. It's hard to describe, but at the same time, I was not bored for a second, and I just think it's a really assured little masterpiece, and I was taken by it very early in the festival. So sometimes you don't know if there's some sort of recency bias in the winners that come after, so I was happy to see that coming back. And Shirat was one that unfortunately I missed because I was doing television when that was on. So I saw a movie that started 15 minutes after, which was Flamingos, which was the one that won Un Certain Regard, and I wasn't able to see Surat, but cannot wait to see it. I hear that it's a real audio-visual experience in every way. So it seems like they've really picked two films that critically and audience-wise people liked.
Yeah, I agree with you on Sound of Falling. It was the first competition film to screen, in fact, at the very beginning of the festival. So it was kind of like beginning on a real high, which is kind of unusual. You sort of think
Right.
they're gonna. I mean, I suppose the opening film gave us lowered the temperature a little bit by being just sort of flatly there rather than anything in particular. It was a very French film. Leave One Day. Uh, but yeah, for some reason, this film really reminded me of Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It had that same feeling of a family throughout history, no one central figure to sort of tie on to, and then sort of experiences repeated by different generations with different variations. Beautiful to look at, really well filmed, really, really sensual as an experience, or sensuous. I'm not sure which is more appropriate here. And you're right, a sort of there was almost like it was a haunted house story in some, because it's all set in the same house in Germany, sort of rural farmhouse. So yeah, it was a fascinating film. I've heard some criticism of it since I saw it, as ever with these festivals.
But of course.
But of course, yeah, absolutely. People sort of, there's the front lash and the backlash. There's and then the backlash to the backlash. I mean, one of the things I love about the value of this festival is that I meet so many people I disagree with, and they're just as clever as I am, or more so, and yet
That's what I mean. I
I
love
know
it. I
they're
love
wrong.
that.
It's
They're
like
wrong, but they have such interesting perspective.
exactly, exactly.
I love the disagreements. Yeah.
Absolutely, and it sort of has a democratizing effect because you just think everybody can, I don't like this idea of like, oh, it's all just subjective. It kind of isn't, but it kind of is as well. It's just, we shouldn't let it being subjective be a way of stopping argument, put it that way.
But if I can just, because what I
Sure.
think has been interesting with the disagreements I've had around this festival is basically I've agreed with, yes, the filmmaking is good. The idea that the daringness of making this movie is interesting, but for me, here's where it falls flat. I mean, it can be a certain
Mm.
thematics or something, but basically, we agree that it's an interesting concept that either worked or did not work for you.
Right, right. And I mean, Sirat, to the point, was divisive. I heard people before I went to see it. People actually lowered the bar for me. People said, "Oh, it starts really well and then it goes downhill." And I've had the entirely opposite experience where I was watching it and thinking, "Well, this is okay." And if it goes downhill from here, then we're really in difficulty because it's not, you know, we're not that far up. And then it just built and built and built, and it got better and better and better for me. But it getting better depended on you going with it. And it did go places that were unexpected and extreme. And whatever you think I'm saying with those words, unexpected and extreme, that's not what happens. So so yeah, I can't wait to get your try to avoid any reviews or any further conversation than this, and
I
just
unfortunately have a huge spoiler already,
oh no,
but
okay,
yeah,
okay,
I think you know probably which one, but
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I can manage anyway.
yeah. Well, to tell you the truth, if you see it in the big screen and you see it in an immersive environment, I think there is so much in the film that it will survive spoilerage. Even if somebody tells you the whole plot, you will still be pretty amazed by the experience. Some people weren't, obviously. Some people felt it went too far or it went off it went off the deep end at some point, and they lost it. But okay, let's move on to the Grand Prix, which was Sentimental Value, and which you've already said was I think your most enjoyable experience of the film festival.
I loved it. I thought it was. I've been a fan of Joachim Trier probably from the beginning, give or take a few. But I think this is so mature. Him and Eskil Voigt. I think the screenplay is pretty amazing how it weaves in and surprises you who's actually emoting what in this movie. I think it's about cinema. It's about actually coming out of it. I was a little worried that it was so personal for me, kind of the daddy issue things, the father who one doesn't live with and sort of comes and goes. I have a good father, but as I explained in the beginning, we haven't lived together, so we have all these things that we try to do together that become perhaps a bit emotionally not as we expected them to be. It was about my husband's a screenwriter and how personal can you be in for your family in a screenplay. Lots of discussions we've had. There was a lot of things I know about the Scandinavian film industry that made me laugh, and just things about sort of should you do a movie in English in order to give it more tracking in the rest of the world, or should you not, and what does Netflix mean, and all kinds of things. So there was so many levels to this movie that I thought were intertwined so beautifully. I think Renate Rensve, and you're going to think this is big of me, but I said it already last year after Armand. To me, she's like the Meryl Streep of Scandinavia. She is absolutely fantastic. In this one, playing an actress, the whole first scene of her having a panic attack on stage, I think was amazing. And Stellan is having a year to remember between this and Andor. Um, this was a perfect role for him. I thought it was just beautiful. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed this
Stellan
movie.
Skarsgård plays the father, and is amazing. Also, the actress, I don't know her name, I'm afraid to say, but the actress who played the
Ilsa, the
sister,
sister,
yeah,
really good. I hadn't not as familiar with her, but she was really good. And one of the things about the movie, Stellan plays the director father who tries to sort of reconnect with his daughter by giving her a role in his upcoming movie. But he all of the different characters you feel have just the right amount for me of backstory. And
mm,
they could have really done something embarrassing with the Elle Fanning figure, the sort of Hollywood star who could have been vapid and comes to make a movie with this great Scandinavian filmmaker. But actually, she really decides on her own what she's capable of doing and what she's not capable of doing, and has a couple really good scenes that I think could have, in the wrong hands, could have been done really badly.
yeah, absolutely. And I think I think it's funny how you talk about those um, this Scandinavian, but Norwegian in this case, filmmaker dealing with some of that insider knowledge of how films get made and how these decisions are made. Including like the choice of cameraman. Do I work with my old cameraman who has mobility issues, or get someone new who
Well,
can
I'm
do these
wondering if he's supposed to
extended
be
takes?
Sven Nykvist,
Mm,
because Sven, he makes a joke that this is not, because he said, "Wow, because this cameraman has this amazing house." And
yes.
the joke is, well, it's not, you didn't make me this money. Lasse Hallström made me this money. And Sven Nykvist did film Gilbert Grape and several of his kind of Hollywood. I'm wondering like who they're supposed to be.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and that's a very very obvious uh a very good insider joke. And
Possibly.
I like the way that this film has sort of has its cake and eats it as well with, Elle Fanning sort of serves the function of Hollywood while not being, while not being that character. Um, and you get that sort of all the way through, that there are these moments where um is Stellan Skarsgård playing that slightly tired trope of the the self-destructive genius, and he kind of is and he kind of isn't. He's kind of you're never quite sure if how good his films are as well. For instance, is he not making films for ages because he's being he can't get the money, he's being conspired against in some way, or is it because maybe he's run out of ideas, and then this screenplay everybody reads, and everybody says it's the best thing he's written, and it's so I loved the film. I thought it was great. It reminded me a little bit of the Royal Tenenbaums with its concentration on the house as well as a sort of
Right.
objective correlative of the family dynamics.
And it's kind of amazing how, because when we talk about it, once again, I feel like there's so many different themes happening here. We also have like the mother, the war theme running through as well, and you have the sisters and the theme of like, why am I the fucked up kid in the family, and
Right.
you're not, and still all this comes together. That's why I'm thinking I was kind of thinking that this would get screenplay, because for me it was a very elaborate and really worked at the end, putting together so many different themes that actually came together in a way that surprised me how much it affected me.
Yeah, but you have to give the Dardennes something. You have to give them something. It
I
can't.
guess
They can't
I,
come and go. They have to always get a prize of some sort.
I guess
Because
Terry comes into the jury room and is like, "All right, where are the Dardennes prize?"
yeah, yeah, that's marked already. Um, yeah, no, I mean Grand Prix is of course it's basically the second prize. The silver medal if you like, and so it's a really good. And I think, Joachim Trier, I remember he was, when he was in Cannes with Louder Than Bombs. Was it Cannes or Venice? Actually, it was in Venice he had Louder Than Bombs. And it didn't just, it sort of didn't quite work. It was more he was making an American film, and it wasn't quite there. And I feel he's really coming back with a two punch, and this is the second part of a three-part trilogy he wants to do, of sort of thematically linked films. The first part being the worst person in the world, and so I feel that he's building a really important piece of work here, and once it's complete, we will see something really valuable.
And can I say he's just such an incredibly smart and nice and genuinely humble person. He's definitely not that director that he has or playing on. He really is an incredibly nice person who feels. I'm very happy for his success, I have to say.
Yeah, and I want to underline as well what you said about Renata.
Oh,
What's her second name? Sorry, I never.
Rensve.
Rensve. Renata Rensve is just phenomenal, phenomenal, and she's got this wonderful way of being at times stunningly beautiful, and at other times she looks like she looks like someone who's absolutely stressed out and extremely ordinary. It's not she's got such a strange set of skills and set of emotions as an actress. It's a really phenomenal. It reminds me of there's a screen test of Ingrid Bergman before she was cast in Casablanca. I might have been even before Intermezzo when she was first arrived in Hollywood, and she's just look to the left, look to the right, now smile, and she just has that. As soon as she smiles, the camera just eats her
Yeah.
up, and I think Renata Rensvit has that similar ability to just be absolutely everything for the camera.
Well, you love her when she does her wonderful little laugh and when she's crying and when she's just, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. When she looks straight through people, and it's just, and that scene, which reminded me of Gina Rowlands in opening night, of her not wanting to go on stage, was a whole cacophony of emotion. It was sort of like, it was funny, it was tragic, it was annoying, it's like just get on,
Just come on.
yeah, snap out of it. And yet she sort of knows that as well. Slap me, she says to her leading man, to try to snap out of it, but she finds it very difficult to. Okay, let's move on to the Palme d'Or. It was just an accident, un simple accident in the French title, which I just
And it
kept
has like
thinking
a
of.
third title too.
Oh,
Something completely different in English now.
oh, right,
Or
okay.
a simple accident and just an accident. I don't know. There's anyway.
Right, right. It was just an accident. Doesn't sound. It's not a great title, I don't
No.
think. Directed by Jafar Panahi, the Iranian director who has been in trouble multiple times with the Iranian regime and has won every major festival award now. He's won the Golden Lion, he's won the Golden Bear in Berlin, Golden Lion in Venice, and now the Palme d'Or. So he is one only the four. I think there are three directors who have done it before him, including Robert Altman. So this is a director who is already incredibly accomplished. What did you make of this film?
Is it correct that this is the first time that he was actually there to accept one of the bigger prizes?
Oh, I don't know about that because he was here last year with No Bears.
Bears. He
Um,
what?
I, I can't remember if he was actually here. I think he kind of
Yeah,
was
I don't remember.
smuggled.
But I mean,
Yeah.
just the fact that this film, that he had just gotten out of jail, tortured. The press conference was absolutely, um, I can't even express how emotional that felt. That an important, just a worthy winner in every way, shape, or form. How about what did you think of?
Yeah, I thought it was. I didn't think it was as good as No Bears. I think it was. I think it was a good film. I didn't think it was a great film. I totally agree on the political point of view, and his standing in the film world, and I think he's really interesting. I love hearing him talk and
Yes.
reading his interviews and what have you. Um, and I love his previous films. They often star him as a sort of as himself, and so he does a sort of Abbas Kiarostami feeling of like you're not never quite sure what is true and what isn't, what is documentary and what is a real life incident. And one of the films he made in a taxi, driving around Tehran, called Tehran Taxi, good title, and just absolutely a fantastic film because he was like a filmmaker, making money as a taxi driver. I thought this was so. This basically is somebody thinks they have recognized their former uh, torturer, and in the process of seeking to make sure that the identity is of confirming this identification, recruits other people who were in prison with him, and they end up all having very different views about what they should do about the situation that they've essentially kidnapped this man. Are they absolutely sure that it's him? If they're sure, what do they do with him? Do they kill him? How do they kill him? Where do they take him? All the rest of it. And it becomes kind of a very dark comic parable because these people include a bride and groom who were taking wedding photographs, and a hot-headed man who just seems to want to fight with everyone, and a couple who appear to be falling in love during the process of this one day in which this is all taking place. I thought it was good. I thought it was a really strong film. I wasn't entirely sure it was sort of like the best film I saw of the festival, and so that. But then again, I'm not on the jury, so we know Juliette Binoche has a love of world cinema. She loves. She appeared in an Abbas Kiarostami film herself, and so in a sense, it wasn't a big surprise when this was called as the winner.
No, I was thinking perhaps it would be the other way around. The Trier would have won the Palm and this one was Grand Prix, but there it goes. And still, as I was saying, I thought both this and Certain Regard included several films that I thought I was very happy about. So
I mean, it's always an uncomfortable thing. I mean, I wrote a piece about this for the New European. It's always kind of uncomfortable to sit and watch films which are very coming from political contexts, which we have very indirect access to, i.e., via the films, via the newspapers, via the internet. And then we walk out of these films and we are in a harbor filled to the gills with super yachts, and there's a casino, and there's a Dolce& and Gabbana shop with a security guard
Hmm.
across the road, and there's a red carpet full of the most famous and wealthy cream of Hollywood. Um, so it always feels a bit strange that we're in this context, and yet we're watching films like Panahi's film. We B. Gann's film Resurrection showed up, was only a late addition to the competition as a result of it needing to be passed by the censorship board in China. Likewise, there were several films from Ukraine, several films from Gaza. There was Once Upon a Time in Gaza, and there was Take Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk, which I saw, which was an absolutely devastating film. I'm not even sure you can really call it a film, but it was a devastating uh, act of witness. And so it is a strange feeling that sometimes stirs, that there's a strange incongruity to what we're doing. But I was pleased that it won. I wasn't, I mean, the prizes are the least interesting part of the whole thing, but
It,
only so in so much as they stir up debate. Let's say that.
you mentioned Baigan, which also won an award, and I'm so disappointed that I missed. But you thought that was amazing.
That would have been my Palme d'Or.
It would have. Hmm.
Yeah, I would have chosen that as my Palme d'Or, Sirat as my Grand Prix. I would have given the jury prize to Sentimental Falling, and the value of sound, perhaps. Um, uh, yeah, I think Resurrection would have topped it. This is a film that is massively ambitious, and when we use the word ambitious, sometimes we mean there's an inference that it fails to achieve those ambitions. And in this case, I don't think that inference is needed. I think it's massively ambitious and achieves those ambitions. It's a film about the history of cinema. It's a magical film where everybody has learned that the secret to longevity and to immortality, in fact, is to not dream. And so if you don't dream, you are like candles who are not lit, which is a wonderful metaphor as well, because you're just a lump of wax, basically. But there are still dreamers who refuse to accede to this immortality, and these dreamers turn into monsters because they're in the process of dying. They're melting through cinema, essentially through dreams, and we follow one of these monsters through five different genres, five different senses. Each of the senses is placed in a story, and these stories are all referencing so many films. It's unbelievable how many films get sort of referenced and used in the
Oh,
films.
I
Yet
cannot
sort
wait
of
for this movie.
oh no, and it's just so cinematic. It's just really, really. And there's a bit in it which is almost like a joke that somebody is recalling their father, and they recall the sound of his snoring, and you just have this like 5 minute section where you can hear this snoring on the soundtrack, and it's just like watching that in a festival in a comfy seat in the dark, and you're just like, this is an invitation to fall asleep essentially. But that's sort of like almost like the film is so with you on this. It's so you are. This is the most sort of the most film since sort of Eyes Wide Shut, in exploring the idea, the connection between films and dreams, and films and desire and dream and everything. And I just and towards the end, there's a wanna, as they are called, to beat the band. It just goes on and on and on, and it's so absolutely, for again, as I say, I think it's ambitious, but it's so accomplished. It accomplishes those ambitions.
Cannot
Um,
wait.
I was
And I have to
not
see it on the biggest screen of possible, it feels like.
absolutely, absolutely with the best sound system as well, which is one of the things I noticed with all these films this year was how important sound is becoming to the theatrical experience. Perhaps as a reaction against sort of watching films at home and that sort of stuff. It's like you have to see this, surrounded by the sound. Okay, so yeah, so I won't say any more about that because it's to be experienced. What? So you were saying your Palm d'Or would have been sentimental value. That's correct, right, Christina?
Yeah, I think that would have been mine. Yeah.
Yeah. And what the final sort of takeaway? I think we're both. Oh well, wait a second. We haven't had the huge disagreement. What was the huge disagreement about?
Oh, you mean the one I think that you like that I thought, which has nothing to do with the prizes or anything,
Okay.
because I didn't like Alpha, but I'm not sure where you stand on that one. But the one I really did not like was Splitsville.
Oh my
Oh,
God. Oh
I
my
thought, and you loved
God.
that, didn't you?
I absolutely adored that film. I can that
So Splitsville
If
is
you had told me any other film, I would have been okay. But Splitsville, how can you not like Sunshine? How can you not like Lemonade?
because it's so dated and it's so Michelangelo Covino. So it's a kind of a sitcom-like relationship film with Dakota Johnson and the absolutely wonderful Adriana Jonah, who's also in Andor. Uh, I just found it to be so written by men, dated, ridiculous. The Arjona, I don't want to give it away, but her arc at the end where she the man who's written this is what will make you happy, honey. We've saved you from what your yourself and now I just thought it was again, it's hard to talk about because I'll give everything away. But it was dick jokes and stupid sitcom like fights and just really bad.
No, yeah, this is
Yes.
you are so
See?
wrong. I'm so glad that we can give the listeners an example of smart people being wrong. You feel you can feel less bad about it now at home because you could hear an example of it right here. No, so Alpha, first of all, I thought was okay. I didn't think it was a great film. I thought it had great bits in it, especially whenever there was music, it got really good. And whenever you tried to work out what the actual story was and what it actually was saying, it got
Really?
very
The Nick
weak.
Cave on the pretentious oh no, oh no. That
I
was just a
okay.
pretentious use of trying to manipulate our feelings. But this now we're
Yeah.
talking about alpha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. We could maybe have a that. Yeah, I maybe I did like the Portishead beginning. I think the Nick Cave actually, you're right. It was a bit weaker and it had a sort of
Oh.
like looked like a Nike advert playing football at night
Yeah.
as well.
And why were they running around on the football? And was he that? No,
Yeah.
just no.
Yeah, okay, let's not get into that. Okay, fair enough. Splitsville, I loved. It was one of, aside from Barry Lyndon and Resurrection, I think it was my favorite cinema experience.
I cannot believe this.
I know. Okay, wait. Really like dick jokes. I just think they have Michael Angelo Covino and Kyle Marvin are writing duo, and I get the feeling they probably direct the films together as well. I don't think I think it's a little bit of a Coen Brothers thing where they divvy things up, but they've made a film in the past called The Climb, which was excellent. It was again about and I interviewed them after when they showed that at Cannes, and they were very clear that what they want to do is bring back the idea of the cinematic comedy. That so that you make a comedy that can only really be a film. It can't be a sitcom. It can't be a this, that, or the other.
But that's all it was.
No, it wasn't,
It
Christina.
what
And I
who
will tell you
what
why.
woman want to be with any of these total idiots?
Because they're not
No, John.
idiots.
We don't.
Okay.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And then to end, okay, I'm going to spoil it now just because I'm,
Okay.
but
So
at
if
the
you want to
end.
avoid a spoiler, you can.
Go a minute or two, and
Yeah,
the fact that it ends with like, yes, now I'm giving you a, she goes back to this asshole and has a baby, and then everything's fantastic. I just think it was so stupid.
I think that's got to be put in the context of the fact that these are middle-aged people. And I did agree. I will give you this.
Oh,
I thought the two women were way too good looking for the two
oh,
guys.
please.
But that is kind of mentioned in the as motivation that the two guys are really insecure that they've got these women who are so good looking, and they're not. Um, that's part of the thing. I thought the fight, which you just dismissed as some sort of sitcom fight. I don't know what sitcoms you've been watching, but that is one of the best fights I have seen. Not just like the best comedy fights. It's a really good fight. It's really well staged. It's really well done. The way it escalates, the way it moves around the house, it just gets funnier and funnier and funnier. Um,
I guess that's not my sense of humor because I was just, please make it end.
No, it was so good when they were like, no, not knives, and try to save the fish, try to save John Paul. I just
I'm
there
not
were
saying there weren't a few jokes peppered in. In there that were fine, but
who hurt you, Christina? Who hurt you that you can't enjoy these simple pleasures?
and I'll give you that there was several people that really liked it. I mean, the laughter around us was huge, but I think it was very divisive. It was very either it's your humor, or it's not.
Okay, okay, but I love comedies. I love film
I
comedies.
love comedies too, John. Now you're
No,
throwing
apparently not.
everything
And
me
all
under
the
the
evidence
bus. It's like I
points
have no sense of humor
all the
whatsoever.
evidence points
I just
against
want my
this.
humor smart. I want it to be. This
This is
was
so
just.
smart. This is
It
so
was really
smart.
dated and
The
stupid.
opening 5 minutes were just, hilarious and
Again,
original.
the opening five
Somebody
minutes were
dies, and then there's a
exactly, and
dick
they
joke
just
within
drive
five
away.
seconds.
I,
But
no,
yeah, no, there was surreal bits. There was a bit, the school principal who has a painting of Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King and himself behind him. It's just like, oh, it was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. Okay, well, I mean, I guess we'll have to just agree that you don't like comedies, and that's just not your thing. I mean,
I'm
I
a
think
completely
I,
boring person who
I,
cannot appreciate.
I'm glad,
All
I'm,
right, I
I'm,
guess I'll have to take it.
I'm glad we've
I'm
come to.
interested in what you thought of Eddington. I don't think I heard quick.
Right. So I actually wrote twice about Eddington. I wrote a review for the Sight and Sound, and I wrote a bigger piece about why COVID isn't getting any real cinematic treatment, or isn't getting a cinematic treatment that we. And I think Eddington was an attempt at that. It was an attempt at, because it's sort of like it really starts on a pre-COVID moment. It's like just before the virus hits a town, and the idea is the virus kind of everybody's rubbing against the protocols because the idea that the threat is real is not yet there. I just thought this was a film made by an obviously talented, clever filmmaker with all the resources available to them, but someone who just hadn't engaged in the political any political thought. It struck me as incredibly stupid from a political point of view. It was like, yeah, I mean, if I didn't think about the politics, I could kind of enjoy this film. And he throws in an action scene, and he throws in some murder and twisty turny sort of Coen Brothers sort of black humor here and there. But I just found it exhausting, and I found the politics just abhorrent, especially in there, you know, both sides are as bad as each other.
So simplistic, right? I mean, I was
Yeah,
surprised that it was that kind of shocked me.
yeah, and it was like sort of Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix, who well-known Hollywood liberals, and yet you sort of it's like this Bill Maher idea of to be sort of left wing, you've got to beat up the liberals more violently than you beat up the fascists. And nowadays it's like, really? I don't feel that. I feel if a white guy is being a bit, self-righteous about not being racist, that doesn't irk me to the same extent it seems to irk other white Americans. I mean, also, this film is so incredibly white when it comes to its point of view. It looks at Black Lives Matter almost entirely through white characters, uh, for and against. There's a black deputy, but he's used almost as the butt of a joke.
Mm.
There's Indian characters, indigenous Americans characters, who are likewise, you know, as part of the plot, marginalized, but also again become recipients of terrible violence, which is done also as a joke. Um, so I found the whole and then you have the low hanging fruit of the sort of obviously racist sheriff, so you could, oh
Mm.
sorry, deputy, so that you can make the less obvious racism more palatable. On a, this was the film that this was my splits film. This is the
Hmm.
film that I did actually find, I found it funny and entertaining when it wasn't wearying. But that made it all the more appalling for what that humor was in the service of. Because ultimately, when you tell a joke, I think you are getting people to agree with you. Uh, and I mean, even like you had jokes poked at like conspiracy theorists, but the conspiracies were like 9/11 and the Titanic, and we're all mixed in, and it was just like, what are you even? It felt really out of date as well. So it's bizarre that this script has actually been written before Hereditary and was around for ages. And in a way, maybe not bizarre. Maybe it feels a little bit like a script that he's just poked contemporary references into, rather than something that's organically come from thinking about COVID, thinking about the
Hmm.
political situation. What did you think, Christina? Sorry, I've talked a little bit too
No,
long.
no, it's actually gone down for me throughout the week. I came out of it, as I said, surprise. I was expecting something completely different based on sort of the poster, and which are these buffaloes falling down a famous picture from AIDS era. I was expecting something different, something smarter in terms of the politics. I thought it was incredibly simplistic. I did think Joaquin Phoenix was really good, um, and used well, and I appreciated that. I laughed a few times at I guess the teenagers Black Lives Matters organization had some funny, poignant jokes in it. But all in all, I found it to be, it's really hard to do satire. It's really hard. Don't Look Up, remember that?
Yeah,
The sort of
yeah,
kind of that type of thing, which was also a failure. I think this one, um, ultimately became a failure for me.
yeah. I mean, I found Don't Look Up much more successful than this, and I didn't find it a total success
Yeah, no,
by
that
any
one I
means.
didn't. Mm.
But it felt, at least it had a coherent sort of political thought. This feels like he's just throwing every reference he can get into the film and hoping something lands. There's
Hmm.
Amazon drivers, there's TikTok, there's all this sort of stuff, and I don't ever feel that there's any heart to it. I think there's an aloofness which is ultimate. I think the best satire comes from some sense of righteous indignation and anger and heart. You ultimately give a shit. This felt like cynicism, pure and simple. I mean,
Mm.
Network is a very cynical film, but it's got a really righteous core to it that,
Oh,
you know.
yes.
I mean, I'm no,
Not
I, I'm
even comparable.
I'm comparing it to the highest possible, but
Yeah.
I just want to mean cynicism per se is not necessarily a bad
Right, right.
thing. Uh, but for it to be workable, for it to have something to say, I think it has to be motivated or coming out of something very smart and coherent, and this was neither. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, listen, I think that we've run the gamut. It feels like I've been to Cannes again.
Yeah.
through this
I mean, there's so
conversation.
much more. We didn't talk about Spike Lee and we did this and that, but there we have
Did you
several
see the
other
Spike
shows
Lee?
up there from. I did. Did you?
Yes. What did you think of Spike Lee? Let's
Yeah.
have a quick.
Yeah. Quick second hour, fantastic. First
Mhm.
hour, I was very worried. I do not quite understand his intention with the first hour. The first few minutes with these beautiful shots of New York over the soundtrack of Oklahoma playing got me thinking and was interesting. But then the whole first dynamic between Denzel Washington and the woman who plays his wife, and very sentimental music playing the whole time, that this every time they talked, and I didn't buy him. Essentially, his son is the one who's supposed to be. He's this big music impresario, and his son is supposedly kidnapped, but it turns out that it's his driver's son that's kidnapped. And this whole first hour of him debating whether to give money to save his chauffeur son, I didn't buy that. But then hour two, you have Spike Lee. Then suddenly you have Puerto Rico, the streets of New York, the music playing, and some really good two-handers between Denzel and ASAP Rocky, who turns out to be a really good actor. So for me, it was very much hour two that saved it, and not only saved it, really became Spike Lee is back.
Yeah, he's a weird film director because he's made so many films that I like and
Yeah.
admire. Malcolm X, Do the Right Thing, and
Oh,
even Clockers, Inside Man. He can do a crime film, which is what this is essentially supposed to be. But this film just felt shoddy. It felt really like the editing was off. That the instrumental music was like
wasn't
weird.
that weird? But several people are saying felt that liked it in our one of these disagreements that are interesting,
Mm,
said that they felt that was very intentional, that the first hour was supposed to be sort of the highest. The He's in his ivory tower, Denzel Washington, the music is supposed to be like that. And then in hour two, when he's on out on the streets and everything changes, the sense of the sensual feeling of the music is something completely different, the graininess, everything changes. And I that didn't sit with me. I did not get that. For me, it was this is off
yeah.
and this is good.
Yeah, he does a little bit of a game as well with the editing where he'll show two shots of the same thing throughout the film, and it's like he's trying to do highest to lowest and he uses a number
Hmm.
two. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing that because of the two. And it's just like, but it doesn't work. It just keeps distracting me and pulling me out of the movie. I thought Denzel, um, I don't know. He seems to be on a little bit of an ego trip on this movie, and like the central core of this film, nobody calls him out on what seems to be a huge injustice, i.e., you've got loads of money and you're not willing to give it up to
Yeah, is
save
it
this
that
guy
was
who's been your friend,
it
and
didn't work for me. Yeah.
not even his friend says, I would get absolutely furious that
Yes.
you're even thinking about it. This kid is supposed to be your godfather, and you're like, yeah, but it'll screw up my income tax
And not just
returns.
thinking about it for a little bit. It felt like it dragged on. Maybe you know what I mean, that he has sort of a thought process of how should I consider this? It just keeps it that did not work.
Yeah, and there were loads of things like the homing device, which was as big as a walkie-talkie in the past. The fact that ASAP Rocky had this whole crew of people to organize the theft who just vanish, because they're not mentioned again. He's on his own in a studio, and there's apparently no organization to what he's done. No, the whole thing struck me even the second hour. I mean, you got those scenes, but then Denzel starts rapping. It was
I
like,
was okay. Yeah, that sort of worked because there I kind of felt that Spike was saying something else. Talking about the whole rap culture, and then about it worked for me in a different way than hour one, which
right.
felt like kind of a HBO Nicole Kidman TV series episode. I just did not get that at all.
Yeah, yeah. No, fair enough. And I certainly had more of a good time with the second half than the first
Mm.
half. The first half, I was just baffled, and I was sort of like, I leant over to the critic beside me, and just went, is this really bad? We were both like, yeah, it really is. It's sort of like, am I allowed to not like this? Because this is, and I've not been a major fan of the Five Bloods or the Black Klansman. I think Spike Lee's, it's a little bit like, I think he's entering his Coppola period, I don't think. I hope I'm wrong because I'm a huge fan of his earlier work, and I'd love to see that energy. And I love his documentaries. I think some of his documentaries are amazing. When the Levee Broke is a superb documentary on Hurricane Katrina, for instance. Listen, Christina, thank you so much for joining me. I feel we could continue because we've got other films that I'm sure we've seen and not talked about. But
Thank you so much for having me.
yeah, but let's pick this up some other time because I can't wait to meet up with you again. I suppose Venice maybe the next
No,
one.
I'll be at Telluride then.
Ah, oh
Yeah,
no.
they overlap, but
Tell your
we'll
riders
get a chance.
robbed me.
Yes. But hopefully sometime this year, and if not, by via Zoom.
Yes, exactly. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.